Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Hanlen from Red Hat. You can find me at the Agile Integration booth out in the main area. Today, we have a fantastic presentation for you. This is a client presentation. I'm simply introducing it, and then I'll let the lads beside me get underway. Just to set the scene, many of you will be familiar with the show Shark Tank. Okay? Shark Tank is an interesting show, and one of the things that you may pick up is that there is a trigger point that tells you they're serious about this. They actually are considering spending some money on this invention. And it comes down to a question. The question that is asked is, do you have a patent for this? Now, they ask that question because they need to understand whether this inventor, this creator of a new design, of some new idea that they want to bring to market, has done the right thing. Because a patent is all about protecting your innovation from competitive threat. Without a patent, you're going to find it very difficult to secure funding. You're going to struggle to get partnerships. The commercial future of your idea could be in jeopardy. And this is why they ask that question. It's important that you protect your intellectual property, right? And that's the IP in IP Australia that these two gentlemen represent today, a Red Hat client. And when we start talking about things such as innovation, the whole focus of today's discussion is helping you understand the journey that IP Australia has gone through in terms of how they are transforming internally, what they're doing with their systems, how they're moving to cloud, and what that means from an application development perspective. So today we'll see that as an organisation, we've been working very hard over the years. The very first patent here in Australia was issued in 1906, and since then, innovation is something that Australia is very proud of. Last year alone, IP Australia processed almost 24,000 patent applications. Now, what this means is that clients are looking for ways in which they can easily access a global repository of designs, copyrights, patents to understand, can we work with this? Is my idea new? Is it something that will actually stand up and we can possibly make money out of? And as you'll learn from the guys, the focus is on how can they transform their organisation to offer clients, members of the public like you and I, easier access to this information and means of digital access to the wealth of knowledge retained by IP Australia. So I'll hand over now to Pat Dredge. He'll be followed by Damien Lederer, but please, I hope you enjoy this session.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So, as Jeff said, my name is Pat Dredge. I'm the CTO at IP Australia. I just want to give you a bit of an overview of the journey that we've been on with OpenShift, with Red Hat, and just some of the lessons we've learnt and some of the benefits we've managed to give to the business and the organisation as a whole. So basically each year we do 22,000 patents, about 55,000 trademarks and 7,500 designs. We're a relatively small organisation in the federal government. We're 1,200 staff, of which 250 are our IT staff. So that's rather large IP compared to the number of staff that we've got. It's undergoing at the moment a very large transition in its business. So there's a program of work called Rio Rights in One, which is basically taking the legacy systems off the mainframe and middleware systems and putting them into a caseflow system written in Pega. It's a multi-year, it's been going 5 years now, probably going another 5 years. So a 10-year program to transform the business. I was previously the infrastructure and security manager for Rio. My job was to keep the 100 highly paid contractors very busy and keeping the environments up all of the time. I have a very passionate CIO. He comes to me every day and he goes, Pat, it's an Audi a day. It's an Audi a day. That environment's down, you cost me an Audi. So I'm going, right, no pressure. And we basically, for 6 months, I had all the release managers and all the infrastructure staff. We started to record the areas that were causing us pain. Deployments, 38% of the outages, downtimes were deployments. Configuration and data refreshes, just standard things that you have to do to keep an environment healthy and running. They could cause an outage. So those 100 staff aren't coding, aren't testing, you've got to find them other work. So they're reading, they're researching and doing other stuff. But that outage is expensive. So we were hitting our heads against the wall, 6 months. There you can see back in 2016, we went, we can't do this anymore. We're losing the battle. We have to do something different. We looked at what Google and those guys were doing. No one else in the federal government had done this, so we thought we'll start a research and development program. So we started R&D, we evaluated 36 products. We got the executive buy-in because they could see the costs. They said, you got 6 months. We said, well, it's 12 months work. Don't care, 6 months. You got 6 months, here's $1 million. Choose whoever you want out of the organisation and do something for us. No pressure, get it wrong and you go and look for a new job. So we got the best guys together. In 6 months, we basically pulled off a 12-month program of work. We managed to basically virtualise a Rio environment. So Rights in One, that program I mentioned before, it had been running previously in environments that took 6 months to build and $500,000 cost. All right? We had old legacy environments that were very precious. We named them all like we do pets. We knew each of them and we used to fight over who could have access to each one. After the Escape project, we could build a Rio environment in 45 minutes. All right? From 6 months, $500,000 down to 45 minutes. How many do you want? So we then containerized a lot of Rio, and this is a picture of Rio in containers. So the little dots are containers, and you can see the lines in between. The lines in between are the performance targets that our architects agreed with the business without talking to the developers, as I always do. And so the green stuff, we basically are meeting the targets. The brown, yellow, we're not too far up. The red, we are not meeting our targets. If you look up there, the things that it's talking to that are red are not in containers yet. Our data center is a very large data center. We have 64 racks of kit. We're not 64 racks big. We shouldn't be that big. We've just grown and grown and grown over the years that we've been running. I've given the guys a challenge. By 30th of June next year, we want 20 racks. There's your challenge, 20 racks. Get rid of 44 racks. I'll tell you in a minute how we're going. So, as you can see, things that run on containers are running quite green. There is an anomaly, that's bottom one here, container, but I know that further down, that's talking to things that aren't in containers. So, as I mentioned, we've got a very large 4-year program. We're basically trying to transform the whole business. We're trying to re-platform the whole lot. We basically took that proof of concept work, that 6 months POC, and we told Rio to stop. No one tells Rio to stop. We told them to stop. You need to stop. You need to stop doing business the way you've been doing it. It's not working. Let us get in front of you, put this new technology in front, and then continue. And they did. Luckily, they did. Because 2 weeks ago, we went live with trademarks, which is our second tranche of work. So it's a progressive, rolling program. Designs was first, small number of users, 34. Trademarks, 340. Patents, another 1,000. So it's exponential in the number of examiners that will be using the system. We knew it had to scale and it had to perform. The legacy environment couldn't do it. The containers that we saw before, we can just run up more and more pods as we get more and more stressed. And those 64 racks that I mentioned before, down to 20, I want 10 at one data center, 10 at the other, fast links to the cloud, so as we need, we can burst to the cloud under load if we need to, because container runs A, B, cloud, don't care. So we're basically hybrid multi-cloud setup. So what has it allowed us to do? We've done continuous delivery. So we're basically doing releases daily, seamlessly, during the day, in production. So that means that basically business get their change quicker. My guys get their weekends back because they're not on weekends doing releases. They can do it during the day, not lunchtime, because they want their lunchtime as well. They can do it in the afternoon or the morning. And basically, we're consolidating that infrastructure. There's 21 racks already that are empty. That has saved us $12 million in cost avoidance already. If we were to pick them up, lift and shift to a data center, that would have cost us $12 million over the 10 years of a data center. We've got rid of that, and we've got 23 to go, as I mentioned. So we're on track. And basically, that first graph that you saw with the percentage of outages, that equated to 1,000 hours a month. You think of the hourly contract rate, do the sums, it's a lot of money. Our business case was if we could save 40%. We've saved 80, doubled what we were predicting in our business case. Plus, all of those benefits that you see in front of us. So, how do we get rid of all of those racks? We basically said, if Rio can do it, with one of the biggest, largest programs that have been going in 10 years, then the rest of the business sure as hell can do it. We've done it with the biggest, hardest, let's do it with the rest of the legacy applications. And that's what we're doing. We're getting all of WebLogic onto JBoss into containers, on the blades. So I call it a marriage in heaven. So one sponsor is obviously Red Hat, and the OpenShift product was really good. It worked as designed. Another product, and the marriage in paradise or in heaven that I describe it, is the HP Synergy blades. That hyper-converged computing with OpenShift has allowed us to shrink our data center to a corner to get it down to those number of racks that I mentioned before. The way we sort of did it to get a bit of a program of work going amongst all the IT guys is the old Monty Python. Let's put stickers. Put a red sticker on it if we're not going to keep it. Yellow, you're not sure. Green, we're going to keep. Your stuff was green, luckily. Oracle, sorry, not so green. Right? So we were basically getting rid of things that aren't in our strategic plan. And it's color-coded and people can see it. We did it at the server level, then we did it at products, and then we did it at application layer. So that's basically how we managed to do it. I'll hand over to Damo now, who'll talk you a bit through more of the technical stuff.
That was great. Thanks, Pat, and good afternoon, everybody. So exactly how did we make this transformation from old legacy environments over to our new model? Well, really, we did it by moving to a cloud-native application development model. Now, what's that, you ask? Well, you know, that's why you're here, to see exactly how we did this. So really, it's a new approach to software development that takes full advantage of the cloud compute model. And really, look, there's a lot of facets to it, but we're going to try and concentrate on just two areas this afternoon. And the first is how you architect your applications. The cloud compute model works best when you break your applications down into their component services. And there's a lot of advantages in doing that, because then you can scale each of those components separately. Each of them can have their own life cycle, and so on. Now, that does raise the question about, with all the services, how do you communicate between them? Well, look, the cloud platforms these days have excellent APIs, and one of those are the communication channels for the services. So take advantage of those, because there's no point reinventing the wheel. Now, of course, on the technology side, look, yeah, I mean, it's quite clear. I think you have to containerize. And so for us, that was OpenShift Container Platform. It was an absolute revelation for us. And of course, you have to wrap all of that software delivery in a DevOps model. So 2 years ago, we were the poster child of traditional software development model. And I'm guessing that many of you guys are as well, which is why you're here. It really favoured stability of the systems. You know, we only deployed a handful of times per year. Most of our applications were very monolithic, very tightly interconnected, and certainly they were very much bound to all the infrastructure. You know, we had large servers that were the app servers and the database servers. I think earlier on they talked about Oracle. That was us. But now that we moved over to the whole new paradigm with containerized, which was really the key to unlocking a whole lot of new features for us. And just by containerizing, we found that we could start actually wrapping a new model around it, and we could just be moving much more quickly. So before, we were kind of developing Agile. We had sprints and we had use cases and so on, but we weren't delivering Agile. But now we can. And in fact, we can deliver now basically on a daily basis. And that really increases the speed to market of your changes. So we're going to delve into many of the steps that Red Hat have identified to basically take you on this journey. Now, coincidentally enough, these are actually the 8 steps that we undertook on our journey. So hopefully we can speak to these from experience. Now, these are in no particular order, and in fact, a lot of the steps that we've undertaken, they're still going. We've run a lot of these in parallel. But anyway, we have to start somewhere, and that somewhere is to start onboarding some DevOps practices. Now, so for us, you have to change your culture. You have to think different to be able to do different. So, of course, this is ongoing. We're still transforming today. We're onboarding new things. We're getting a much better collaboration with business as a result. We're bringing them along for the ride, where before we were very much stovepiped in an IT shop and business. And that really boosts the trust and cooperation with business. And so you can really form an actual delivery team that is trusted to actually start landing these changes into your production systems. And there's a whole lot of other benefits. We're finding that we're innovating a whole lot more. Fast failure. Yeah, look, we're doing that, but we still get pinged if we fail. So we try not to do that too much.
Get it right.
Yeah. So the second step, and look, certainly this was the first tangible step that we did to bring about all this change, is to lift and shift our existing applications onto the container platform. So we were quite fortunate, I guess, because we were a Unix shop and Java shop, so we could lift and shift most of these things. But look, just doing that step really gave us a lot of benefits. We could address some technical debt. We could start wrapping the new delivery pipelines around the applications and start actually getting some value just by this one simple task. Now, it doesn't stop there, of course. Once you're in containers, you can actually start breaking those monoliths down, teasing out bits of the application, wrapping them in APIs, and pretty soon you'll find you'll actually end up with a microservice model. So, the third step, use application services. Now, what does this mean? The cloud platforms these days have a great array of ready-built APIs for you to use. So don't reinvent the wheel. Use the inbuilt APIs. They've got APIs for communication, for data caching, for the data layers. Take advantage of that because they're well-trodden, so they're tried and tested, and B, you're not reinventing the wheel, and so your developers are much faster. So step 4, and certainly we found that this is the case for us, once you get off these big stovepipe systems that are difficult to take on board new tools, because packaging and deploying on the old model is really difficult. So once you move to a container model, there's no penalty now for taking on new tools. And certainly for us, we used to have exclusively a Java shop, but now we can pick the right tools for the right job. So our AI team, for example, they can finally use Python. I mean, anyway, so we're jumping into Node.js, we're jumping into NoSQL databases, and this really underpins the whole innovation aspect of the journey. So step 5 is to create a developer self-service platform. Now, we really took this one to heart because we had a lot of inefficiencies in our resource provisioning. Now, I don't know how you guys are, but for us, it took weeks to provision up storage or compute capacity where a development project had to go down to IT and fill in the request form. It was terribly inefficient. But for us, OpenShift has really allowed us to create a self-service platform. We now give the projects direct access to the cluster. We carve out a piece of the cluster and they can have their resources on demand. You can set quotas and so on. And this has massively sped them up. And again, it underpins the innovation because then they can actually try things that they just couldn't try before. So step 6, automation. You've heard this message throughout the day so far, and I'm going to underpin it again. Automation, automation, automation is the key to speeding up your software delivery. And that extends right through the entire arc of your software delivery process. So, it extends well beyond just your delivery pipelines. It goes into your policies and processes. So we had to re-engineer the entire release governance framework that wraps around our software delivery process. We're a federal government agency. We have audit requirements. We're spending public money, so we have to be accountable for it. And so we have very heavy requirements around the actual delivery process. So we created a release governance process that ties in with all the tools and it fills all the paperwork in for you as you go. Now, step 7, and this is my personal favourite because I am the continuous delivery solution architect for IP Australia, and so this is more in my realm. Really, automation around your delivery pipeline. Now, we know that as CI/CD. We put a lot of effort into this. We really separated out the two and tried to put stuff as much as we could into CI, because if you can put more in the developer space, then there's less paperwork that they have to do as they jump over to releasing. However, efficiency is the key. Now, you saw the demo before of OpenShift with the deployment mechanism. So OpenShift has Jenkins built into it. We didn't use that because we've been on OpenShift since 3.0, and so we already had delivery pipelines set up in a separate Jenkins instance, but the theory is the same. Get those as efficient as possible. So for us, our devs check in, they commit in the source code, we use Subversion and Git, gets picked up by Jenkins, compiled and thrown over to the container platform. Now, you're probably all asleep. That's okay. I just want you to wake up for this one next slide, because for us, this next slide was our eureka moment. Rolling deployments. Now, I'd better backpedal just a little bit. I had been trying to bring about change in the organisation for a good 6 months before we did anything. And I made presentations and I espoused the virtues of containers and all this jazz, but it didn't really get a lot of traction in the organisation. So we thought, bugger it, let's just install OpenShift. And we'll take our marquee system. So you can jump onto our website, and if you apply for a patent or a trademark, you're using this application, and we just containerised it. And I created this demo for the executive where we had some source code checked out and Jenkins and then rolling into the container platform. Made a change, committed it, and it just went through. Now, I don't know whether you've seen OpenShift and the rolling blue circles. It's really beautiful to watch. And look, jaws dropped because for the first time, we could actually have a no outage deployment of our application.
That's when the business really hooked in.
Right,
because
exactly.
A lot of it was all containers and IT speak, and I don't understand what you're talking about. How much money do you want? Go away. And then, I want that. Give me that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was, for the executive, the moment that they could see it. You have to see it to be it. So for us, these rolling deployments were were nirvana for us. And you can, that pie chart that Pat showed you earlier with all the outages that we had, this solved that problem, as well as many others. Now, essentially, all it is, inside OpenShift, you have a router, and you can stand your new version of your service up into that router alongside the existing one, and then pull out the old one. And it does it without an outage. And certainly that goes to how you architect your services, because they have to be clusterable and so on. But anyway, look.
I describe it to non-IT people. You know the three cups, and you put a rock or something or a thing under one, and go shuffle which one's it under, and no one knows.
Yeah.
It's magic to me. It's great.
Exactly. So, look, it solves so many problems for us, and it probably will for you guys as well. You can go back to sleep now. I encourage you to stay awake because there's more good stuff. So, one of the other advanced techniques that we're using are a thing called feature toggles. So, this really was important for us because our old school way of doing it was to bring our systems down for the weekend and roll new changes into it, and then we validate it. We needed to make sure that the changes were good before we brought the systems back up. So the question was asked of us, well, how do we validate if we've already rolled into production and it's all there? This is how you do it. So we brought on a feature toggle system called Unleash, and it's our enterprise-wide toggles. And it's simply this. You get your new feature and you wrap it in an if statement. And that if statement is toggled on literally a light switch on the enterprise tool. Now this allows us to do so many cool things. For example, we can do A/B testing. We can do gradual rollouts. But most importantly is we could toggle that feature on for our validators, but not for everybody else. And so this really underpins the whole continuous delivery model into production, where you can keep on shooting your changes to prod and then line it up afterwards. And we also give that toggle to business, so they can in fact just toggle it on themselves. Okay, the final step is how you architect your applications. Now, for us, we tried SOA for a while with some mixed success, and probably the same for you guys. So we already had a whole bunch of services, that mostly worked, I guess. We lifted and shifted those, but really they're mini services, which are okay on the platform. You don't have to change them. Obviously, the microservice model works best. However, the microservice model isn't always easy to do, even on a platform like OpenShift. So there's a mechanism you can use, and they call it the monolith first paradigm, where build your application as a monolith first. And it helps you work out the domain space of your application. And that will help you to understand how you can then break it up and deliver it and manage it as services. Now, as I mentioned, we were trying to we're trying to sell this in the organisation, but really it's the bean counters that you have to convince, because they hold the purse strings, right? So how do you convince them that all of this is worthwhile? Well, look, there's a couple of topics that I just wanted to cover off around business cases for actually moving to this cloud compute model. So for us, as I mentioned, we had big release cycles. By re-engineering everything, we've now accelerated that application delivery, and we deliver daily to production. I mean, for a government agency, this is amazing.
For example, trademarks went live 2 weeks ago, and we've been doing rolling deployments just to fix bugs since that.
Right,
Which
yeah,
there's no way we
day.
could have done that before.
Exactly.
Everyone out, we're going to do a release. Everyone back in, go to lunch.
All right, so the second topic I wanted to cover off was just modernizing your existing applications, just lift and shift. There's a lot of advantages in that. As I mentioned before, you can address some technical debt along the way, and that reduces the cost to actually maintain it. But for us as well, it was consolidating on hardware. We have one platform now, and we have those running on some HP Synergy blades. They're hyper-converged. They only take a couple of rack space. So really, this is how we've managed to get a lot of these rack space savings in our colo.
Well, seeing's believing, because I have a lot of managers and execs come into my office and I talk about containers and whatever. Oh, bugger it. Get off your seat, come in, we're going to go in the data center and I'm going to show you. So we walk past all the empty racks, we walk past some of the red stickers and say, well, that one's next, and then that one, and then we go to the corner and all that's left is the blades, the network and the NAS.
Exactly.
So that's private cloud. Yeah.
Right. So the third one I wanted to cover off was re-architecting applications. And we're going through this process now as well. We've got a new program called TDS, which is our technical digital transformation system. And it's being re-architected around service-based APIs. But that alone speeds it up because you can just reuse all these integration components and it's really sped up our software development. I mean, it's amazing. You ask the service guys, build a service and they can have it done in a couple of hours, delivered and in production. It's really amazing. And that improves your opportunity cost because you're delivering to production much sooner. And the final one I just wanted to cover off was the self-service model of the platform. Now for us, it's been really great because traditionally the non-IT areas in the organisation had a lot of difficulty in engaging and getting access to resources, but now they can. So our AI team, for example, we've carved them out a huge chunk, enormous chunk out of our cluster, and they took it and ran. Within days, they had the last 5 years of worldwide patent data ingested into a Mongo scalable database, and they're already mining it for new data insights. I mean, there was no way that we could do that before. So that level of innovation has been a real key component for us.
To summarise what we did is we started a project, we called it Escape from the old world. We did escape, we are reaping the benefits. Some of the other benefits that we've realised that wasn't in the business case, we've got Tanner James in there currently doing the business case review, and they're going, you only said you're going to reduce 40%, but you've done that, and that. You've undersold yourself. And I said, well, we didn't know back then that we could do all of this. We didn't know the full benefits that we were going to get. And every day we find more that we didn't realise in the original business case. We've done that, things like what-if scenarios. We're currently Oracle database. We want to run that case flow system.
We're changing that though.
To Postgres. We want to run it to Postgres. And I wonder how that'll go. One of the developers, that one over there has been running on Postgres for the last 6 months, I forgot to tell you. So he's been already doing it. And then another bloke said, oh, by the way, I think Rio's going to have a problem in a couple of months. And I go, well, why is that? So the latest version of JBoss kills the Rio connector because I just upgraded all the platform and Rio connector just broke. So you better tell the developers that in 6 months or a couple of months they're going to have a problem. So those what-if scenarios and the ability to patch, trial things, throw away environments and do stuff we could never do before. So it gives you a whole lot of tools that you can play with.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Pat. So how can Red Hat help? What we've discussed today are the 8 steps that you can follow in no particular order to help you on your journey to cloud-native application development. We've got a portfolio of products, obviously the underlying technology, we've discussed OpenShift, but there's a myriad of other integration, middleware products, automation products and so on that can help you through these 8 steps. We back that up with our professional services and our consulting and of course training. When we look at the 4 use cases, this is where we can work arm in arm with you on the transformation. Our Open Innovation Labs is a great example of an immersive experience where we take your team and partner them up with a high-performing Red Hat team. What we do is work with you on the cultural transformation, the process transformation that helps your team develop better quality software more rapidly and empower you to continue that on into the future. As I said before, start anywhere, go everywhere. There are a couple of resources online that you will be able to make use of. When you get a copy of this deck, you can use these links, an interesting blog post, and of course an ebook on the 8 steps. What I would encourage you to do is please engage with the Red Hat people here. We're pretty easy to spot. Ask for a discovery session. If you want to understand how you can do this, how Red Hat can engage with you to achieve success on this same journey, a discovery session is a great way of doing that. You can also get a demonstration. If you want to see some of this technology, the rolling deployments that Damien was just discussing, please come and ask, talk to a solution architect, we will set something up with you. Finally, everyone loves to be able to play with these things. OpenShift is available so that you can experiment with this. See for yourself the power of the technology and how it can help you. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please thank the guys for a great presentation.